It's time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Scent Blocker,
Killer Food Plots,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooters,
Antler Action,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls,
and Badass Slingshots.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal podcast, everybody. Host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin tonight with Dan DeFall. What's going on, Danny?
You survived up north.
I did, man. It was awesome. I needed that so bad. I needed just to kind of get up there and get a reality check.
That was your first survival. And then you survived the Promethean spray down.
Yeah, I do have. I got my can of Promethean here, and we'll talk about that later on the show. So,
but we got more important things tonight.
We got bigger fish to fry, bigger deer to kill, so to speak.
We got to do some Mitterling.
That's right. So, speaking of, Anna Mitterling is on the show with us tonight from MUCC. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. So,
everybody that's on Facebook now kind of got to listen to our pre-interview and setup of everything. But for those who listen to the podcast right now, Anna, you work with MUCC, which is Michigan United Conservation Club. Is that correct?
That is.
Okay. And kind of partner with the DNR and a couple other outdoor organizations promoting deer co-ops. Is that right?
Yep. So wildlife cooperatives in general. I work with, I'm housed at MUCC, but along with MUCC, DNR, the Quality Deer Management Association, and Pheasants Forever, they've pulled together money to fund my position and my program to promote wildlife cooperatives around the state of Michigan.
I tell you what, you were on a pretty big tractor yesterday. I think I saw a picture of you, and you were dealing with Pheasants Forever.
Yeah, one of my deer co-op guys is also a pheasant fanatic, and so we have a pheasant rendezvous for pheasant cooperative leaders and PF leaders. So we had that event yesterday. We have that twice a year out on a farm in Eaton County.
Very cool.
Yeah, she's on a pretty big tractor.
You know, you mentioned pheasants. I've got a question for you. We're going to chase a rabbit right now, right off the top of the show here. We like to do that every now and then. I seen you make a post a while back, or maybe it was somebody else, but they talked, and I think it was you, because you guys were counting pheasants by cackles. Is that right? Doing a cackle? Is it a cackle survey?
A crowing count, yep.
What in the world? I'm like, what is a cackle? I mean, I know pheasants cackle, but how in the world do you do a cackle survey, and how does that relate to counting them and understanding how many that we've got or we need on a certain piece of property or certain acreage?
Yeah. Well, so it is a kind of survey that really just shows you trends over time. So what you do is you start out early in the morning, about a half hour before sunup, and you start a route. And you stop periodically on that route listening for pheasants. And it's something that's planned out ahead of time. Okay. That you repeat every year. You do it a couple times each year just to make sure that there's that accuracy and consistency there. And then you can track those numbers over time and see if the pheasant populations in that area are increasing or decreasing or staying the same.
Very interesting. Okay. So you've got a predetermined track that you run. How long is that? Because that's going to kind of lead into what we were talking about with our deer browse study. But how long is this cackle? Is it called a cackle track? Or it's
a crowing count survey is what it's technically called.
Crowing count survey. Okay.
Yep, and it starts, the season to do that is right now. So see, we're in May. So May 1st until May 20th. Is a good time to do that because the roosters are out there getting their women lined up. So they're calling for their mates. And you can run that if there's not much wind, as long as it's not raining, and as long as it's above freezing, you should be able to hear the crowing. Okay. And you want about 10 to 20 different plots that are evenly spaced out along your route.
Okay. And how long is that route typically?
I believe it's a quarter to a half mile, at least in between points. I'd have to kind of look at some of those. I don't recall off the top of my head, but far enough where you're probably not hearing the same rooster one spot to the next.
Okay.
And I tell you what, last week was a bad week for it because it rained.
It did rain. We've had a lot of rain in Michigan last week. So was the crowing count survey, was it successful in your opinion?
So I haven't done any this year. Some of the guys are just getting started with those. As far as some of the numbers go, looking at results from the past, some of them are seeing a few. Some guys are seeing a little bit of a decline, and there's some guys that have seen more. So it just kind of depends over time and where you're at.
Okay. All right.
for what those numbers have been looking like.
Did you grow up in Michigan?
But yeah,
Were you born and raised in Michigan by chance?
I was.
Okay.
Yep.
In what area? I mean, roughly.
Lansing area.
Lansing. Okay. So big ag land down here in this area. Do you remember? I mean, at least back, I know when Danny and I were kids, and I don't want you to tell your age, but I know you are younger than us. But back when we were younger and stumbling around fields, we used to have pheasants all over the place, and we've seen that huge decline. It'd be nice if we could start seeing that population grow again. So, we really appreciate you guys getting out and doing some things to try to help that. And I assume that's what you're doing on the tractor, doing a little bit of maybe CRP or food plots.
Another program that I work with a little bit is the Michigan Pheasant Restoration Initiative, and that program is in its 6th year right now, and it works with a bunch of different partners, a bunch of agencies and other wildlife organizations just to get more grassland habitat that's on the ground and maintained so that it's good quality habitat. And there's been thousands and thousands of acres that have been put into place between the Conservation Reserve Program with the Farm Bill program, other partner-funded projects. DNR's done a ton of work on public land with partners like QDMA and Pheasants Forever. So there's been a ton of work in the last 6 years to really vamp up habitat quality for pheasants and quantity.
That's nice seeing QDMA and other organizations get involved that maybe don't necessarily promote pheasants specifically, but wildlife in general. That's awesome that you guys can work together on that. I'm going to throw you a question here that I heard recently, and I don't know if you've heard this or if there's any correlation to the pheasant decline that we've seen, but they were talking about corn prices over the last 20 years or so being this big boom in corn prices due to turning it into fuel, that farmers were actually starting to farm marginal land, which took down fence rows, windrows, and which used to be big habitat for pheasants. Do you think that had anything to do with maybe a decline that we've seen here in Michigan and the Midwest?
There's so many factors. I don't want to pinpoint any one kind of realm per se. Farming definitely has had a big impact. I mean, farming equipment is just so efficient now. If you look at right now, you go drive across fields, a lot of them are bare dirt, and that's not good habitat for anything.
Right.
But anything from, you hear about herbicide use, pesticide use, just the efficiency of farming equipment, but you also look at how the landscape in general is changing too. There's a lot of early succession in Michigan. If you let a field go, it grows into trees and shrubs, which isn't ideal for pheasants. Obviously, losing the hedgerows is a big detriment as well. We're seeing increases of raccoons and possums, which are nest raiders for pheasants, probably one of the biggest contributors to the brood rearing not going well. There's a lot of factors involved. I wouldn't want to point it on just anybody,
right.
But that is a piece of the puzzle that's equating into seeing less birds.
I got to think, too, with even trapping, we've seen a decline in trapping over the years. That, like you said, raccoons and the other scavenger animals that we happen to, maybe an incidental catch of a skunk or a possum, that those things are actually also leading to the factor of those populations increasing and, like you said, the brood stock and everything decreasing. So it's when we've got people out there that don't understand how all this stuff works together, that's where
it's not a simple piece of the puzzle.
No, and people like you coming along and getting these organizations to work together and get this information out to, just the average maybe deer hunter. He's like, well, I hunt on public land up in northern Michigan. How can I help? For somebody like that, just looking at just maybe other species besides deer, and we'll get into the deer stuff here in the next segment, but how can an average person, an average hunter who maybe that's all they do is they deer hunt a couple weekends a year during rifle season and that's it, how can they get involved and maybe start thinking about helping some of these other populations?
I think the two biggest things that come to mind is, one, being a member of different organizations, whether it's MUCC, QDMA, Pheasants Forever, Whitetails Unlimited, there's tons, Ducks Unlimited, Trout Unlimited. There's so many great wildlife organizations out there that do so much more than just species-specific work. So supporting those organizations is a great thing to do that isn't time-consuming, and you get a lot of good materials, whether it's their literature or Pheasants Forever, a lot of their banquets you get seed as part of your membership.
Right.
Another thing you can do, especially public land hunters, is MUCC has a program called On the Ground, and they travel around the state and they do habitat projects on public land for wildlife, whether it's promoting habitat or planting trees. There's all sorts of things that they do to improve hunting on public land for public land hunters.
Yeah, so people who don't own property themselves, they can contribute by getting out and helping work on state lands and public-owned lands as well. That's awesome. You know, is there other organizations throughout the Midwest like MUCC that is starting to work on some of these projects together? Are we starting to see an influx of this across the country?
You know, I wish I knew the answer to that definitively. I do know. So another fun fact is MUCC turns 80 years old this year.
No kidding.
So that's pretty neat. We have a very long and rich and successful history in promoting the protection and enhancement of our hunting, fishing, and trapping. But especially in the deer cooperative realm, QDMA absolutely loves that my program can be housed out of an organization like MUCC. And the struggle when they're trying to create and promote programs like mine in other states is that there isn't another organization on a statewide level that can manage a program like mine.
Right on.
And so that causes some hardship in expanding this kind of program, because it's important that it's not directly an agency position. Sometimes state agencies get a little bit of a hard rap, and it's a little harder to connect with landowners sometimes. But having that tie with MUCC has so much value. And there aren't many states that I'm aware of that have a similar program, especially not one that is as well entrenched and active politically and actually doing habitat work and kids camps and all the amazing things that MUCC does. We're pretty lucky here in Michigan. You know,
it is a great hunting heritage, or outdoor heritage. I don't want to just say hunting, trapping and fishing as well. It goes back so many years. But I didn't realize that MUCC was 80 years old. That's awesome. So,
yeah, it's exciting.
And you're talking about that, and one of our favorite listeners is chiming in. Jerry Lambert is seeing a big decline in pheasants in Calhoun County over there, and he's seeing predator numbers are high, and there's also an increase in corporate farming. So you were talking about that, farming, and bulldozing fence rows and small woodlots to gain farmland. And but he did also point out that Pheasants Forever does a good job of keeping all their funds and most of it local. That's good. So there's a direct result of what we're talking about right there from Jerry, who writes for Woods and Water News. Absolutely. So I tell you what, we're running up close here to our first break. Let's step outside. We'll take our first break. We come back. I kind of want to delve in a little bit about your position there at MUCC and how you work with deer cooperatives, and something that we actually got to participate in, or at least I did, a couple weeks ago. So we're going to step outside and we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Throughout human history, one notorious killer has remained at the top and claimed more lives than any war or natural disaster combined. Mosquitoes. It's time to arm yourself and protect your family this season with Scent Blocker's new Bug Blocker for insects. Lasting up to 8 hours, Bug Blocker not only repels biting mosquitoes that can carry the West Nile virus, but other biting insects, including chiggers, biting flies, gnats, and ticks which can carry Lyme disease. Field tested by outfitters and guides from Alaska to Alabama and everywhere in between. The results are in, and Bug Blocker flat out works. In a high-potency sportsman strength dosage, using 25% no-nonsense DEET, plus 2 specific ingredients to target biting flies, Bug Blocker plays for keeps. For ultimate protection, pair Bug Blocker insects with Bug Blocker ticks.
Welcome back to the second segment of the show. This is a restart for us. For those of you that are listening to the podcast, we lost our connection with Anna. We're hoping that at some point here we will be able to make contact again. and we think she might have lost maybe power to her phone. We're guessing that maybe the battery went dead. So with that, Dan, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I was getting thoroughly entertained about talking about your poop counting.
Yeah, we're talking about the deer browse study and the poop count, but that's kind of where we're at. So I'm going to bring this. Well, we got to have this up to be able to listen in here. We're going to try to give her a call one more time here and see what happens. So, and if we happen to get her back on the show, then we'll make an edit and carry along. And if not, then we'll carry along anyway. So, all right. I think you just need to wait for a text.
All right.
Or a Facebook update or something.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on here.
Alrighty. So, what do you want to talk about now?
Well,
you mentioned Promethean. You know what? Let's go down that road.
All right. You did a little video.
Yeah.
That you were. One of the things you're not supposed to do is spray in wind. It was a pretty windy day.
Yeah, you got to stand upwind of where you're spraying. I waited to the last possible minute to be able to get my clothes sprayed with Promethean this year.
Correct.
And it happened to be one of the windiest days there was.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You have to admit, this past week has been a little bit windy, rainy, and...
Yeah, nasty.
Yeah,
so...
it's been one of those things that's just...
I couldn't go outside and spray this stuff during the week because of the rain and the way the weather was. So we waited. We had some dry weather Friday. I was heading up north Friday night. So it was time to spray down my hunting clothes with Promethean. And what this is, it's spray you put on your hunting clothing to repel insects. More importantly, ticks. And
right. It kills the tick on contact?
That's what they say, yes. Repels and kills ticks, chiggers, and mosquitoes. It's treatment for clothing and gear. Do not apply to skin. This stuff is nasty.
Bad.
It is nasty, but it works. And with the problems we're having with ticks nowadays, I'm starting to get a little worried. And I know our property up north last year was really heavy in ticks. So going up, doing a little turkey hunting this weekend, I said, it's time to spray the old clothes down and make sure that I'm protected, because there's some nasty things that these ticks are carrying now that is even worse than Lyme disease.
Oh, I know. It seems like they're coming out with a new disease every couple of months. Oh, you don't want to get a tick because you'll get this.
Right. So,
oh, great.
So, yeah, I did that, and you want to make sure that you're upwind of your clothing when you're spraying, because you cannot, you're not supposed to be breathing this stuff. It is nasty. So, this stuff here, it's made by Sawyer. It's Promethean clothing and gear spray, and you can get this at your local Cabela store. They sell this, quite readily, and this is where I got mine. If I remember right, this can cost me roughly $10-12, something like that.
Now, how much so you sprayed how many garments?
I sprayed down 2 jackets. I sprayed down a complete pair of hunting pants, and then another set of bibs, hunting bibs. And then I sprayed my boots.
4 garments and boots.
And I've got roughly a half a can left. So
okay.
So
4 garments, boots, that's 5 items. Pretty, you're the pants, so
yeah,
a couple of outfits.
Yeah.
You got a half a can.
Yeah.
So you're looking at probably 4 outfits.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
A couple pair of boots, what have you. But, it's just a little added extra insurance that I think is well worth the money spent, especially with all the problems that you've got out there right now with ticks and things. So,
right, exactly. I mean, anything you can possibly do to help you not get those little buggers on you, definitely.
Now, I will say this. I came home today, got back this afternoon, and I was in the woods Saturday morning. I was in the woods Saturday evening and this morning.
Right.
And this morning I got down dirty and nasty.
You were army crawling.
We were going not commando, but we were acting like a commando group going after these birds. We were in some weeds and thick nasty stuff, and we were down doing some crawling, army crawling, and I'm leaning up against trees. Pine trees.
You were in tick territory.
I was definitely in tick territory. And when I came home, that's all I could think about. Is like, okay, hope the Promethean worked. And actually, if anybody saw the pictures from Saturday morning, let me take my headsets off. I had hair, and I know
he doesn't have hair anymore.
I don't have hair now. I cut the hair off because it was just driving me insane. And And that's all I could think about. But as the dog commercial says, there's no fleas or ticks on me.
Right, exactly.
Tick-free.
That's a true statement, right?
And that's usually when I come back, even after doing the tick check up there, I come home, and every now and then I still find one, hanging around.
Those little buggers will hang on to just about anything, and they don't really need much to hang on. And lo and behold, they end up at home, whether they're crawling in your stuff or they're crawling on you.
Right.
They are just a useless bug.
Yeah, I don't want to be anywhere near them.
So now, how long is that supposed to last?
It's a good question.
Now, you
I think you can wash your clothes a couple of times.
Can you wash it? Now, there's been debate if, can you wash, you don't wash. You sprayed it on once so far this year. Now, are you going to need to reapply it here in a month or two? Or
there's a lot of fine print there that I can't read, even with my glasses. I got the wrong glasses on.
Ugh.
From what I remember, it's, as long as you're not washing them on a regular basis, I think even if you do wash it, they'll last a couple of washings.
Right, exactly. So that'd be good. $12, and if it saves you from not getting those little buggers on you.
Yeah. And typically my turkey hunting gear, my clothing, as much as I get out and hunt, I don't wash it until the end of the season.
Right.
And that's really only if it really needs it. I mean, come on, man, it's hunting gear. I mean, I'm not deer hunting in it. I'm not really worried about, as long as it doesn't stink, now it's not muddy and covered, in grime or whatever, at the end of the season, I'll throw it in the washer. So, I apply this every, once a year.
Once a year.
Yep.
Reapply it, you're good to go.
Yeah. So.
Especially up there. You've seen a rise in ticks.
Last year was horrible. I was up there. I can't remember if it was when I was just doing some clearing around a blind of mine or if I was building a blind, whatever. But I come out of the woods one day and I had 20 on me. It was insane.
Isn't that amazing?
It's like I must have fell into a tick hotel. But
you probably did. You walked right through it probably. And they were probably all hanging out waiting for you.
Yeah. So.
Now, it's gotten even to a point where they're actually impregnating that into the clothes now.
Yeah. Cabela sells quite a few garments that has this in it, and they say it's good for 50 to 70 washings.
Right,
depending
exactly.
on how vigorously you wash it.
You can pay a little bit more for your clothing and have it right in there. If you know you're going to be out in there, you can just have it right in your clothing. You don't need the spray.
Yeah, right on.
But, you up north at our place, same thing, You go walking down the trail, you better get ready, because I swear every time I crossed the bridge, I'd end up with one on me.
Really?
Every time I crossed the stupid bridge. Our little Trout Creek Bridge, you drive over it or you walk across, and every time we'd go for a walk, I'd walk across it, just give it a sec. Yep, there'd be one.
Really?
I don't know why.
It's like the troll under the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. He just jumps out at you and hangs on.
It's like, here's Dan.
And then when you got that little foot-long grass is another good one. When the grass is long and we're cutting it,
right on.
It's like we're tucking everything in just to,
right on.
Prevent.
I gotcha. Well, yeah, it's to me, it's just a added piece of gear that's safe, and to get out there and make sure you get back safe and not have to worry about any of these tick-borne viruses that are popping up. So
absolutely, and it seems more and more nastier every year.
Yeah, but I mean, it was in the back of my mind while I was out there. I'm like, okay, I'm leaning up against an oak tree. I got a bunch of brush around me. I'm in a pine tree. It seems to be pine trees. They seem to hang out in that a lot more too for some reason. And then we did the army crawl, and actually we got pinned down. That was the other thing. We were pinned down by these birds in that field for probably 45 minutes. Just laying prone in the field and trying to call and get them to respond and come in. And it wasn't like we were just laying there for a second and popped up.
No, you were downright into it.
And then a good 50-yard army crawl. Once we got tried to get to that field edge, and then we were pinned down there. So. Yeah, I'm really impressed with that. I've used it before, but you wonder. But this time, I mean, we were down and dirty. Yeah, we were down and dirty, and it really worked. So
that's cool. Good deal.
So I tell you what, why don't we step outside? Let's take our next break. It looks like we've lost.
We'll try in our break here.
Yeah, we'll see if we can't get her back on the phone here, and we'll continue the conversation. If not, we'll go in and start talking about the hunt that we did this weekend. So we'll step outside, and we'll be right back after this.
So what do you do when you've completely redefined the way bows are engineered? When you've reached the pinnacle and the band starts playing your victory song, you start a revolution out of thin air. Introducing the all-new PSE Carbon Air, engineered with true carbon technology to be the lightest high-performance bow in the world. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural Organics Fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much-needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
Back to the segment of the show.
We are trudging through tonight's episode.
You know, I am trudging through right now because I got a headache. Man.
You got a headache? Is
yeah.
it a tick driving into your brain, maybe?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe that or an earwig or something, man. I don't know. I didn't sleep well last night. I was at deer camp.
And you didn't sleep well at deer camp?
No, I did not. I did not sleep well. I don't know what it was. Usually I get my best sleep up there, but last night I tossed and turned. And I'm running on about 2, maybe. If I said 3 hours, I'd be pushing it.
You know, you should get some sleep, young man.
I know. I went to bed early. You know, we're going to turkey hunt this morning. Taking a buddy of mine from camp out. We're gonna get out in the woods this morning, see if we could hopefully double up. And you know, stepping back a little bit, I went to bed at about 9:30 and tossed and turned all night.
Really?
Finally got some sleep. I think the last time I looked at the clock before I fell asleep was somewhere between 1 and 2. I woke up at 4 a.m. and could not go back to sleep. It was horrible. And I'm just like, man.
But you were out turkey hunting.
I was.
You got out there.
I was. I got up there. I left Friday night after work, had everything loaded in the car, and away I went. First time I ever went hunting in that car, I think. I think it's the first time I've ever used my car.
Oh, okay.
To go on a hunt with.
All right.
A little different. So, but yeah, I got up to camp. A couple guys were at camp. It was our annual meeting.
Yep, it's your
Saturday.
annual weekend meeting.
We have that, usually the first weekend in May, and it's at 10 a.m. And I thought, 10 a.m. What could I do between, say, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and 9:30? I can go turkey hunting.
Yeah, that's right. You definitely can.
So, yeah, that was the plan. Got up about 5:30, and it was already cracking daylight. And I'm like, I'm about a half hour late. Got up, hustled real quick, got my clothes on, went out to the car, got my gear, and bang, I was in the field.
So, you walked your property.
I was what?
You walked your property.
Yeah, it was, you know how I hunt.
Yep.
You know.
So you started up the trail.
Yeah, I'm a runner and gunner, and, you know, I had my seat with me. I got a little HS strut, little tiny stool that I sit on, you know, up against a tree, and had my backpack full of goodies. I had Miss Hen here with me. The guys on the live stream can see, you know, I got Miss Hen here. This is a Montana decoy, one of their flat ones that pops open, 3D decoy. And I tell you what, man, I love this. I want to give them a shout out. That you just dropped her.
I wasn't going to take it from you. I was just straightening her head out.
She was looking. She's looking at the folks. See?
Oh, okay.
She's looking at them there on the camera. See,
you can make that head go any which way you want.
Yeah, you know, you can put it up into alert. Well, you don't want alert, but you can have her head up like she's walking, or you can have it down into a feeding. The tail pops up on it, or it stays down. You know, there is a stake that holds it down.
And you can put the stake in 2 positions.
Yep, exactly.
And it says right underneath there what position you're putting them into.
Yep. So it's good. I like it. Got these little cuts in the fabric, makes these things look like real feathers. I really like this. And when you can collapse it and make it literally that thick, guys on the live stream can see, it goes right in my backpack.
Yep.
You know, it's real easy. And then you pop it out and bang, you got yourself a bird, and away you go.
They do fit nicely into backpacks. So, no doubt about it. Now, were you running just with the hen, or were you?
I had the Jake as well.
Okay.
First day, I used the Jake with the hen the first day. Yeah, I got out that morning, hit the field. Field I come up on.
And you had, because of the week's worth of weather, you had good weather.
It was beautiful. There was no wind on Saturday morning. no wind. There was very light clouds that day. The sun was popping, starting to have first light come up. It was warming up. The weather was great. It was perfect turkey hunting weather, and I kind of smiled as I'm hitting the field thinking, life is good.
That's right.
And, cruised along the edge of the lake, crested up over the hill to hit the first field. And when I stood up there, took a deep breath, and I'm like, yeah, life is good. And all of a sudden, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, game on.
It's hunting time.
It's hunting time, man. And, that's the first time I've heard a gobble in the woods in probably, I want to say since 2012, maybe 13. Okay. I haven't turkey hunted because we had the house fire and the tornado and all that stuff that wrecked my life in 2013.
1 year, it was 13 was the
I hunted 1 day.
1 day, and then
the year before, I think I only hunted 1 day.
Last year, I think you only hunted 1 day.
Yeah.
And then the weather went south.
Last year, I got a tag but didn't hunt at all.
Okay, it was the year before that, then you hunted 1 day. And
yeah, so I've just not really had the opportunity to be able to turkey hunt. And this year, I was like, I'm going to take time. I'm going to make sure I go. But yeah, it was just so electric hearing, and it wasn't just one. I think there was 3 gobblers on roost, and it brought a smile to my face, And I'm like, okay, now what am I going to do? These birds are off on our neighbor's property, and I'm just kind of hanging out, and all of a sudden, bang! I hear 2 or 3 more fire off to my right in a field that's probably a good quarter to half mile away on our property. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, which one am I going to go after? And then as I heard the first set of birds, again, I could tell they had already pitched down on the ground.
Oh, they're already down.
The next time I'd heard them, by that time, there was enough daylight to where it was time for them to fly down. Like I said, I was running a little bit late. And I heard them again, and I could tell they were moving away from me. And that they were moving towards my field, up the property, okay, away from where I was at that point. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go after the ones on the right. And I proceeded to kind of snake my way around and make my way over to where I thought they were going to be. And that's where I set up, did my first set, took the pictures from, had the fourth arrow camera arm up and everything, had everything all set up. And I hung out there for, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. And I kept hearing birds to the right gobble during that time, but they were getting further and further away at that point in time. And I was like, oh, okay, what am I going to do here? So I started making a track where I thought they were and just doing a walk and stalk. And that's what the rest of the day became, or the morning, I should say, was really kind of a walk and stalk. And I started kind of following these gobbling turkeys, thinking I was going to get in front of them at some point.
All right.
And I did a couple sets along the way, and never really got in front of them. And completely forgot about the birds that I had first heard.
Oh, okay.
In that first field I was in, where I thought they went, along our property over to where I eventually pretty much had ended my hunt. And I didn't see them in my field. So by that time, it was probably 8:30-ish, 8:15, 8:30. And I thought, need to get back to camp by 9:15, get ready, get cleaned up, get ready for the meeting. So I started making my way back, and I'm just kind of taking it easy and listening. And I get to a point where I'm on the opposite side of that first field I had set up on. And I'm cruising. There's a big dip in the road. And I'm just starting to hit the top of that dip to go down into it. And I hear, blah, 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 blah. And then I hear another, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, whoa, okay, we got 2 birds, and they're in that field, the first field.
Okay.
And the first bird was real close, and I knew exactly where he was at. So I worked my way down into the dip, and then I cut across in this ravine to put me within 75 to 100 yards of this bird. I knew exactly where he was pitched out in this field. It's where we had just done a cutting from last year, our logging project.
All right.
And it was very open. So I'm down in this ravine that's a little thick, got some good backing, and I got up next to a pine tree that was probably 3, 4, 5 inches round. Okay. Had a lot of cover on it, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking up this little rise, and it was probably 50 yards to the top of the rise where the horizon broke and you see nothing but sky. And I said, he's probably another 30, 40 yards on the other side of that. I said, this is going to be textbook cake. This is easy. Slam dunk. I said, I'm going to just leave my gun up here real quick. I'm going to reach down my bag, grab my call. I'm going to make a real quick yelp and put my call down, and he's going to come over that hill. So I got my call out. Yup, 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 yup. Put my call down, got my gun up, right up against the tree, turned the safety off, and waited. It wasn't 10, 15 seconds. Big fan comes up, breaks the horizon. And I'm just like, game on, man. This is
it.
This is duck soup, you know. And as he comes up, and I can see the whole bird, he stops. Boo! Again, and you see his head shoot out. You know, I mean, it's just like a picture. And I'm like, this is going to happen. And I said, all he's got to do is work his way down and get down another 10, 15 yards closer to me. So I'm still sitting there with the gun up against the tree, just waiting. Got the beat on him. And he comes down about 10 yards, 10, 15 yards. And he stops and stands there. And I'm like, uh-oh, I've seen this before. He's looking for the hen. He's gobbling. She's not responding. I didn't have my mouth calls.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't find my mouth calls anywhere to save my life. I'll look for them all day Friday before I went to work. And I'm like, it'd be real nice to have a mouth call right now. So I'm sitting there waiting and waiting. And I'm like, this is not going to be good. He's going to bug. And I'm trying to estimate the distance. I thought, that's about 30 yards. I said, stick your head out one time, buddy. And no more than I thought that. He stuck that head out and he was looking. I pulled the trigger and boom! He staggered like Tyson hit him.
Oh, yeah.
But he rolled. It was a body hit. He rolled. And I'm like, oh, I knew immediately the way he reacted that it wasn't a kill shot. And he staggered, got to his feet, spread his wings, and he was gone. Just that quick. Flew off. And he flew through a little opening, you know, from my right to my left. And I knew exactly where I went over to the opening. Actually, I went up the hill to see where he's at, and I wanted to count the paces off. I said, that's got to be further than 30 yards the way I hit him. Because I aimed at the top of his head thinking, okay, I'm shooting up a little bit of a rise.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I want to, you know, at least aim for the top of his head. And I paced it off, and it was 40 paces.
Oh.
So it was 40, you know, good 40 yards. Yeah. So, you know, it's just one of them deals. And
okay, so he body rolled, he flies off. Did you hear him again?
No.
He was out of there.
No, didn't hear the second one either. But I did go up to where he was at. No feathers, you know, which I was kind of like, man, why is there no feathers? I did knock any feathers off of him. And I looked around, and I didn't see him anywhere, you know, like once he disappeared, I started following that track through that little opening and walked another 100 yards and never saw anything. So
okay.
And I knew it was, you know, I said a few choice words.
I'm sure you did, but we can't mention them on the show.
No. And, you know, it wasn't good.
No, not at all.
But, you know, it was exciting. It was picture perfect. I did everything right, except I wasn't patient enough to wait until he got within complete range.
Yeah, but at 40 yards, though, and he's got that bug-out look on him.
We've all seen that look.
It's that look of, you better do it now or else I'm going to be back over this hill before you can...
Well, he was looking, you know, I could see his head swinging. He's just looking, you know, like, okay, where are you at?
Yeah, I came over the hill where you're at.
Yeah, you ought to see me. I've already gobbled once and, you know, puffed up. You didn't respond.
Now you're gone.
Where are you?
Yeah.
And, I knew the gig was up at that point. I needed a mouth call.
You needed a mouth call.
And I, to this day, don't know where my mouth calls are.
We had them.
I know we had them. We had them at Cabela's when we were there.
Yeah.
Haven't seen them. After I came home, I did something with them, put them up, and haven't seen them since. So, yeah, I took off, went in, did the meeting, and then my buddy Dave from camp, he came up for the meeting, and then he wanted to do some turkey hunting. So we took off and went to another piece of private property that we had access to hunt. And I'd never been on property before, and that's one of them things where when you start to go and hunt some places where you've not been before, you wonder, you know, what's it like?
Right.
Where do I set up? And I had some clues. The person that got me hooked up with this property give me the you know, basics of where to set up and everything. And, you know, as we started walking down the property, I'm like, okay, this looks like this, you know, you're looking for that spot where you can put two people, and he's a left-handed shooter and I'm a right-handed shooter. So I'm like, okay, if we're both facing the same way, you know, and I'm on the left side, you're on the right, we can cover 180 degrees.
Yes.
You know, and shoot the opposite directions without getting somebody hurt. So found a good spot finally to set up, and it just happened to be a little T intersection of a 2-track, you know, and I put the hen out and put the Jake out, decoys, and set them up and thinking, okay, if a bird comes in the area with us calling, you can see it 3 different directions for quite a ways. And the wind was picking up and it started blowing. And I'm starting to hammer the call, really hammering on it. We were there for probably an hour, and all of a sudden I heard a commotion that sounded like a turkey. Couldn't really tell if it was a gobble or a bunch of clucking. And I started watching. There was a little opening with a little bit of grass in it. I'm like, you know, bird. We got a bird in the field, or the opening out there. And I started watching, looking at, got my glasses up, field glasses, started looking through my binoculars, and it was a Jake. He had probably, a good 6-inch beard on him.
Okay.
I told him, he comes in, if you want to shoot him, So
Right.
we started working the bird, and he started doing the patrol.
Yeah.
Left to right, And he would respond to the call, but he just wouldn't come any closer. And I'm like, man, it just don't seem right. What's the gig? And all of a sudden, we've seen 2 more birds, and they were hens. I'm like, okay, he's henned up.
Yep.
And, he hung around there while they were feeding, and as they fed through, he went right in tow with them. That was the end of that.
And away he went.
Yeah, so, we took off and went and grabbed dinner at the new little restaurant down at the corner.
Oh, there's a new restaurant at the corner.
Yeah, just opened up, so we went down there and had dinner that
And how
evening.
was it?
If I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, a solid 8.5.
Nice.
It's a little diner. Looks like it's family run type diner. Awesome food, a lot of food. Prices are fairly reasonable.
Good.
And I asked, I said, are you going to try to stay open all year long? Because you know where our camp's
Yep.
at. And they're like, yeah, that's the plan. So I'm like, well, okay, I hope
It's at a
hope it
good.
works out.
It's at a good intersection.
It is.
That's your only hope, right?
It's a good travel corridor.
You got the two come together. It's definitely well traveled.
It's just there's not a lot of stuff around there.
But besides that, after that, well, you see, you might get the, you're running up to the lake to go fishing, or you're running
deer camp,
or obviously when you get into August, September, October,
hunting season,
hunting season, bear season, small game, those will kick in.
But once you get past Christmas,
and I don't know about the snowmobiling over there,
I don't see a lot.
Right, because you're not in the snow belt. You're south of the snow belt for up there, and so that takes you into so you get the spring. Maybe they'll do something with the canoers, the boaters. The summer activities. So you can only hope, and for a small mom and pop shop like that, you hope.
Yeah, well, I told him, I said, I really do. I hope you're open in the winter, because we do come to camp in the winter, and you'd like to have a place. When you don't feel like cooking at camp, you want to go out and get a meal real quick and get a good meal at a reasonable price. You want something fairly close, and they're only 7 miles away, so it's not too bad. So
yeah, exactly. And that's one of the nice things that it works like that. So I hope they make it.
I think they will. It's just going to take some time to make sure that everything works out well for them. So we'll see how that goes. Checking my audio here, man. Something there just kind of faded on me, but I don't know what's going on. We're having some issues tonight. I tell you what, we're going to step outside. We're going to take our next break. We come back, we'll talk about the rest of our hunt. So we'll be right back after this.
I shoot PSE because I like 1 pin to 40 yards.
I shoot PSE for the perfect combination of feel and performance.
I shoot PSE because you can shoot lighter poundage and increase arrow speed.
I shoot PSE for the fastest bows on the planet.
I shoot PSE because my livelihood depends on my bow.
I shoot PSE because better engineering makes a better bow.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE. I shoot PSE.
Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Throughout human history, one notorious killer has remained at the top and claimed more lives than any war or natural disaster combined. Mosquitoes. It's time to arm yourself and protect your family this season with Scent Blocker's new Bug Blocker for insects. Lasting up to 8 hours, Bug Blocker not only repels biting mosquitoes that can carry the West Nile virus, but other biting insects, including chiggers, biting flies, gnats, and ticks which can carry Lyme disease. Field tested by outfitters and guides from Alaska to Alabama and everywhere in between, the results are in, and Bug Blocker flat out works. In a high-potency sportsman strength dosage, using 25% no-nonsense DEET, plus 2 specific ingredients to target biting flies, Bug Blocker plays for keeps. For ultimate protection, pair Bug Blocker insects with Bug Blocker ticks.
So you went out, you had a good dinner.
Went out and had a good dinner.
So that takes us into Saturday night.
I
So
went to bed
you
early.
got one more day.
Couldn't
You couldn't
sleep. Nope. But Dave and I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and went out and tried another time.
Hear any gobbling this morning? How was the weather? First of all,
the weather was 10 degrees colder.
Yeah, we're going to have frost warnings tonight.
It was 35, 36 degrees when we got up. When we headed out, it was chilly. I dressed the same as I did the first morning. Actually, I want to step back just a little bit. First morning when I went out, interesting observation. Very interesting observation. I had a hoodie on that morning.
Okay.
Camo hoodie. You don't see it in the pictures because I took it off. I'm going to tell you why. As I'm walking, the very first time when I crested that first hill that morning, there was deer feeding, and they were 125 yards or more away.
Okay.
And I'm standing and I'm creeping up slowly, looking over the ridge, make sure there's nothing in the field, and I'm not going to spook anything and scare everything away. And they could probably see me from the waist up, but I'm in cover. The sun's not all the way up. It's not even over the horizon. We're still talking, you can see first light, but the sun's not over the horizon at this point. Those deer picked me immediately and bolted.
Really?
And I'm like, I sniffed my pits. Do I stink?
Yeah.
What's going on here? There's no wind. What happened? And as I'm walking to that first set, it happened 2 more times. And I'm like, man, there's something wrong here. Well, the time I got sit down, take my backpack off, and when you're carrying stuff on your back, how your back sweats, like, man, I'm getting warm. And it was 45, 46, 47 degrees that morning. And I'm thinking, I'm just take this off, kind of cool down a little bit. When I took it off, it's a normal hoodie that I wear and wash, and I could smell fabric softener in it. And it wasn't the fabric softener or the laundry soap that I was worried about because I was so far from the deer. There's no way they could have picked me up. But what it immediately clicked in my head, what is in modern laundry detergents? UV brightener, baby.
Yeah, whitens and brightens.
And I immediately thought of that. I took that off, and the rest of the day I was sneaking up on deer, 40, 50 yards, no problem. So right there it tells you, when you're washing your hunting clothes, we've always talked about this, do not use anything with a UV brightener.
There you go.
Dude, they picked me off so far away. I was blown away. But I was glowing. That's the only thing it could have been. So, now where were we talking? Always talking about the next day we went out. It was chilly.
You know what? And that's a good thing. And that was there you said they're about 125 yards. Mm-hmm. So that's something, that's, imagine a turkey then. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, Dave and I got up. We got out early. Didn't hear a gobble. We couldn't have bought a gobble. I don't care how much money we had in our pockets. We couldn't have bought a gobble this morning. I did not hear one gobble the whole day. There was one time I looked at him. I'm like, did you hear that? And he's like, hear what? And I'm like, I thought I might have heard a gobble. And that was on our second set of the morning. But nothing ever came of it. And we did our first set, called, waited, set up. Nothing, The wind was blowing a little bit. It wasn't blowing hard, but it was blowing, and it was chilly. And I thought, birds are going to be quiet today. They're not going to be gobbling a lot. It's windy. They're going to be flocked together because of the wind, if we even see anything. Went and did a second set. Same thing. Called, nothing. Called, nothing. So then we went to a third set. We're at the opposite end of the property by this time, the furthest point away that we could get away from the lodge. Called, set, did a set, called, nothing. I'm like, I said, do you want to go back over towards, where we kind of first started, but go back towards your area a little bit and just see what we can see and then call it a day? And he's like, yeah, okay. So, and we started our walk and we made our way back and we start over towards his field. We're walking down a 2-track and he just kind of takes his hand out and he stops and he goes, stop, birds. And I'm like, where? I didn't see him. He goes right there up ahead in the 2-track, right where the field opens up. And sure enough, right up against the edge, tight to the edge, you could see there was a flock of birds there.
Right.
Got my vortex binoculars up, started looking, scoping them, looking at them, and we're probably 100, 150 yards away, roughly, and I'm looking. I'm like, okay, there's 2 toms. I can see them. There's 2 toms fanned out. I can see their fans. And I said they're mature birds because the fan was symmetrical. How on a jake, them 4 feathers stick up higher. So I could tell that, and that's about all I could tell. And I said, I think the rest are hens. So we're watching to see, okay, are they coming towards us or are they going away from us? And they milled around. They kept milling around. Finally, they looked like they were going to go away from us. I said, okay, we're going to make this big circle. We're going to try to get around and get in front of them. And basically we had just left the field and we were on a 2-track and a little thin strip of brush between it and another long field. And we were, and it was short on the sides we were going to cross, but it was long from left to right. And then that field led into another field that was kind of circular, and that's where the birds were. So we went all the way around that big long field. And we got over, and I said, okay, we got to see if the birds are still in that little circular field or have they moved. And I'm looking through the brush because of the logging project. We can see a long way.
Right. Yep.
So I'm looking, and finally found movement, see the birds, and I'm looking at them. Well, they had got into the middle of that field, then they stopped and turned around, went back the same way that we first seen them. I'm like, oh man. So we're along the edge of that long field, and I said, that's when I said, you want to play sniper on them. So that's when we kind of crouched down, went as far as we could, then we got down on the ground. We did the arm and crawl for about 50 yards and set up, and here they come. They got out into the field, and that's when we got pinned down and watching the birds, and they're coming out, and I'm still trying to figure out, okay, toms, jakes, hens, what's what? And as we see them come out, and I said, there's 3 birds there. I said, I think they're hens. And I got my binoculars up, and I'm looking, and I thought one of them they were breeding. I thought maybe there's a jake in there. So I start looking. There's 3 jakes, and what I thought was 3 jakes, and I found out later it was 2 jakes and a hen. And so there may have been some breeding going on, don't know. But the beards on those jakes were only 2.5, 3 inches long. I mean, they were little.
Right, first year.
And then all of a sudden, here come the other birds. And there was the mature toms there. But then they started going down away from us in the long field, and they're going to hit some heavy cover. And I said, this ain't good. I said, they're just going to hit the cover and they're going to be gone. Well, all of a sudden, the 2 jakes come busting back out, and I seen a bunch of commotion. The toms were kicking the jakes' butts, like, okay, we got the ladies here. You guys get out of here. They're ours, and we're taking them. So the toms and the hens took off, and we started to get up, and those 2 jakes broke out of that cover and back into the field and had us pinned down again.
Yeah.
So we're laying there waiting. And I said, once they leave, I said, do you want to give it one last ditch effort and make a run on them? He's like, yeah, it's okay. I said, we're going to circle all the way back around where we came from, but keep going further down back in the edge of my field. I said, I know where they're coming out at, if they come out of there. I said, they're going to come out in one of 2 places. So we got over there, got set up. We're looking east. They're in front of us on the east side of that field. Put the decoy down, got up next to a couple trees, got in some shaded cover against those trees, and made a series of calls, put the call down, and I started glassing that cover on the other side of that field to see if they're coming through. And it wasn't 2 or 3 minutes. As I'm glassing the field, looking down the edge, I'm looking from right to left. And just about the time I got to the end of the field, bang, they popped out on a trail right where I thought they might, but they were too far away.
Oh, okay.
And they head down a little dip in the field and back into the cover down in the swamp.
And away they went.
So
you were on their trail.
We chased them for an hour and a half.
There you go.
We got pinned down in that field for a good 45 minutes. But that's hunting,
That's right. It is. That's why it's called hunting.
And not killing.
That's right.
And I said, I'm sorry we didn't get a bird, but I said, did you have fun? He's like, heck yeah, I had fun. I mean, I seen birds every time I was out and had not pulled the trigger on one, and,
right.
I messed that up. So
yep, exactly.
With that being said, it's I had a blast. So.
Matter of fact, Bill Hoffman just drove by the UNJ cabin and he saw 2 hens in the field.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Can't shoot a hen. But yeah, that's one of the things. You went out, you saw birds, you had a good time.
Right. You had a great time.
Even you emptied a shell at one.
Yeah. And beautiful sunrise this morning. Just
yeah,
gorgeous.
You took that picture and it was
gorgeous.
You could tell it was going to be. And it's been a beautiful day all day today.
Yeah. A little bit windy. The only disappointing part of my whole trip, we've got a few minutes left here I want to talk about real quick, briefly. That first day, before I got the shot at the bird, and I said I was out just kind of doing my little walk and stalk, I was walking up a deer trail that I had a camera on, and I knew I was going to be coming up close to the camera. All of a sudden I look down, and there's this big spot of deer fur. And I'm
like something exploded.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, that ain't good. That's a kill site, And then I walked another 10, 15 yards, maybe 20 yards. Boom, there's another one. And I looked up the trail right in front of the camera. There was another one. And I go, okay. Doing a little, detective
investigation.
Work. Doing a little detective work here. And I'm like, okay, so we got 3 piles of deer fur. And I'm standing at the second one, looking down and looking at the first one, looking at the third one. At those two, there was nothing but fur. There was a lot of it. And I'm looking down at the one I'm standing next to, and there was fur there, but there was a rib cage. But it was little, like last year's fawn.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yep.
You know, it was little. And we've talked about this on the show a couple weeks back, probably a month or so ago. Our camp manager found a deer carcass that had just been killed that morning, and it was a little deer.
Right.
They hadn't cleaned it up yet. You can still tell what it was. Excuse me. And he said the thing didn't weigh more than 40 pounds. So I'm looking at that, and I'm like, okay, this little guy here did not make this pile, that pile, and that pile.
No.
And deductive reasoning is telling me that, okay, if this one's in the middle and this is him or her, then they're not going to kill that one or that one and then drag to the other spot. There was too much fur.
Right. And
it was in front of my trail camera, so I don't remember seeing it there when I put the camera up. I think I'm pretty sure I would have seen that.
Oh, yeah, I think you would have.
And it looked fairly recent.
Okay.
There wasn't blood and debris. I mean, the only debris was that rib cage, another little bone, and deer fur.
Right.
So that tells me coyotes, more than likely. It could have been a bear, maybe on the small one, but not if a bigger deer usually. Right. So that's what I'm thinking. And I had an interesting thing. A guy on Facebook had asked me. He's like, "Well, how do you know it's a kill site?" And deductive reasoning was like, because when I put the camera up a couple weeks ago, they weren't here.
Well,
and 3 deer aren't going to just lay down and die,
usually,
in that proximity.
Usually in the fur, usually when they basically, if they curl up and die, it stays all right there.
Unless something finds it.
Until something finds it and pulls it out. But usually, because I've walked up on it too, and when we were looking for deer and we found the deer and we're like, yeah, this ain't good.
Yeah.
It's kind of, in matter of fact, we had snow at the time, so you could see where it's kind of the fight happened, which wasn't much of a fight.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely.
But what I'm thinking is, how in the world do 3 deer die? Or let's say it's even 2. Because I know that, like I said, that rib cage wasn't big enough to make those 3 spots.
Okay.
So let's say there's 2 deer and it's a little separation and parts got drug wherever. How in the world how many coyotes were there to take down 2 or 3 deer?
Yeah, that's a heck of a question.
Because I know they had to die at the same time, within close proximity. I mean, because like I said, a couple weeks prior, I put that camera up, and I didn't pull the card. I didn't have time to get the card out, so that's going to be the key.
Right.
Do I see anything on the camera?
Do you see anything on the camera? And which leads to the next question of what you just asked. Mm-hmm. How many would it take?
Yeah, I don't know.
You figure the small one.
Well, here's my next question. What if it's not a coyote?
Then you've got bigger problems.
Yeah. And that's a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully you'll get something on camera.
Yeah, that's my goal.
If it's a bear, it's a bear.
Yeah.
If it's a coyote, it's a coyote. If it's something else, then stay tuned.
Right. So, yeah. I guess that's what I'm saying is hopefully we'll find something out when I go back up again and pull camera cards.
Definitely. In matter of fact, the story you're telling of your turkey hunt, Dave Hamady totally agrees here. He had a blast and never...
I will say this about Dave. Dave's taller than me, and his stride is bigger than mine, so I have to walk twice as many steps, twice as fast to keep up with Dave.
I know that.
And when I say running gun, Dave can move. And
right.
There was times he was quite a ways ahead of me because we knew where we were going. So
exactly.
Yeah. He kept me working. I walked a lot. We probably walked, it was at least a mile out this morning and back, plus all the other walking we did. I'd say we put on 3 miles today. Yesterday, I probably put on a good 2.5. So I probably put on 5 miles in the last 2 days.
Did some hoofing.
Yeah, it felt good.
Yeah, definitely is good, especially when it's nice weather.
Right on. So, but yeah, it was a blast. And being up north, you just can't beat it. So
absolutely.
But yeah, that was turkey hunting.
It is put in the books for the year, and we got just a little bit of a season left.
We got a little bit of time left too. You were busy this week with something.
I was busy. Speaking of busy weeks, let's get to something. Tony Smith is chiming in here. Big week this week with the NRC meeting in Scottsville, Michigan.
Right on.
It could be a huge turning point in the future of deer hunting in the state.
Talking about the APRs and the push on that.
Yep.
And actually, that's what we were supposed to have Lincoln Roan on tonight, and we couldn't make contact with him.
Right.
We talked about having that problem early on in the show, and we lost our call with Anna Mitterling after the first segment. So.
Right. So, big week here at Scottsville. Need to get out, voice your opinion to the NRC, see what's going to happen. Matter of fact, the Michigan Let 'em Go, Let 'em Grow gang, they're going to be giveaways there.
Yeah.
They're gonna, you're going to show up. They're going to give you a shirt, and then they're going to be. You guys be present to win for giveaways, and it might be a Bushmaster 450 and other things.
Guys here in Michigan, hunters here, guys and gals in Michigan that are deer hunters. If this is something you're interested in, go over to their Facebook page. It is a closed group. You got to be a resident of Michigan, and for obvious reasons, you need to be vetted into the group because of what it is. It's deer. Absolutely. It's deer hunting. They're not just going to let people come in and run rampant.
Right.
But go over and check them out. It's Michigan Deer Hunting or Deer Hunters. Let them go. Let them grow.
Yep.
So search that out on Facebook.
So that's going to happen this week. Mm-hmm. Last week on the show, we showcased the PSE bows that had arrived.
Right.
And I stopped over at the one and only Jim Beasley's.
Oh, you went over to Spot Shooters.
I went over to Spot Shooters.
I need to pay him a visit.
Yes, you do. You called him and said you'd be over there.
Yep.
But I beat you to it.
You did.
Started getting the bow together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting on a sight and a couple stabilizers to come in. But I've got the drop away rest. I've got the peep sight.
What'd you put on for drop away?
I put the QAD on it in black. I had the ripcord on the other bow. So, I was thinking about, I said, I'm going to try a different item each one.
Okay.
Because that way it gives me a little bit more.
Compare and contrast.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Like last year I used the ripcord. This year I'm using the QAD.
Mm-hmm.
Last year I used a True Glow sight. I'm going to get an Apex sight this year.
Okay.
I went with a True Glow stabilizer last year. I'm getting a Cabela's dual stabilizer this year.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was thinking about that on the way home and the way up. What do I want to put on it? And thinking of the gear I'd like to run this year. I've got a ripcord, Code Red on one of mine, and I've got a QAD on the bow that I used last year. So, I like them both. There's a couple different features each way. So I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do. And I thought about I don't know if I want to use my older. Give a shout out to G5. The sight that I had on there.
The Rock.
The Rock is the one that Jake was using. I've got the one that had the adjustable pin.
Rock 2. It's got the adjustable.
Yeah,
that's the one I got.
It's a two pin or 3 pin, 2 fixed and 1 floater. I really like that sight.
That sight is.
So I'm thinking about taking it and transferring it over to this one, or I'm thinking maybe that new. It's called the IQ.
Oh, the IQ, yeah.
Yeah. So it's got the little retina. I think they call it the retina display.
Yep, retina displays to lock on your eyes so you're all in line.
So I don't know. I just don't know yet. Got to play with all.
Oh, I know. That's what I was doing. I was like, okay, I could just take all this stuff. I said, you know what? I'm going to set this bow up with different items so it expands my horizons of Apex, using a Cabela's product, the QAD I'm using. So I'll know the difference between the ripcord, the QAD, and vice versa. Right. So that was my theory behind that. And I got a peep sight, and I don't remember which name was the peep sight.
Well, and I do think I've got the colors of the string I'm going to pick out this year. I always run one of Jim's Killer Bees bowstrings on my bow. Last year I did the OD green and black for Army. So, it's the one thing I said I'm going to start doing. And so when I'm sitting out in the stand and I look at that string, it's going to remind me of somebody out there in the services and what they do and fight for us to be able to sit in the stand.
Right.
So I think this year I'm going to go with red and yellow for the Marine Corps.
For the Marines.
Yeah.
You got to like that.
So that's one I think I'm going to rock this year. But, I got to get over there, man. You got the drop on me already.
You're right, I do.
The drop away.
Drop away rest.
So, all right. Well, our apologies to Anna Mitterling. We don't know what happened. We're going to get in contact with her, get her back on the show here, and hopefully...
We had her on for a segment.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have her on for more.
Yeah, so we'll hopefully get her back on. We need to talk to Lincoln as well and try to get him on.
And Tony's saying if we want to talk to discuss the upcoming meeting, we can call him right now.
All right, so maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we can get some pointers, and maybe the problem is I can't throw anything out this week. You're gonna have to if you're gonna do any live streaming because
I know
I got a big project thrown on my desk at work, and I'm going to be working a lot.
Matter of fact, I got a big project too, so this is gonna be an interesting week.
So maybe we can work something out though. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. So
all right, folks, that'll do it for us this week. And as we always say here at the Up North Journal, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal. This episode was brought to you by PSC Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Scent Blocker,
Killer Food Plots,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooters,
Antler Action,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls,
and Badass Slingshots.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.